Okay, can you see my slide class? Boleh nampak slide saya?
Boleh, boleh madam.
Okay.
Boleh, madam.
Alright. So for today, we will discuss more towards the calculation part. But before that, we will recap. Okay, for our previous class, we already finished for all the chapter, the content in chapter 4. Okay, and then before that, I want to remind for your for your quiz. Okay, had been extended to the date of 25th of December. Okay, which is for next week, next Friday. Okay, 25th of December. Okay, kita akan proceed dengan kita punya quiz 1. Okay, so for the quiz 1, we will cover for chapter 4, which is in terms of the calculation part. Okay, and then for the refinancing. Okay, and then for the benefits of insurance, yang mana kita tak cover lah lagi untuk chapter 4 yang kita tak cover lagi untuk quiz 1, kita akan masukkan dalam quiz 2 plus with the calculation part. Okay, so this is for your quiz 2 will be on 25th pula. 25th kita Christmas, sorry. 24th of December next week, okay, hari Khamis. Okay, kita akan buat quiz. Nanti saya akan remind balik lah date and also timing for your quiz 1. Okay, so we just will recap for your chapter 4. Okay, so kita dah discuss. Okay, first of all, in terms of, benefits of insurance, saya rasa you all boleh baca sendiri in terms of what are the benefits, what are the advantages here if we having for any insurance policy. Based on for ourselves or for your asset. So what are the benefits that the customer will get in terms of the insurance policy that they have purchased from any insurance company? Okay, sebab benefit ni saya rasa is very easy for you to understand well for the benefits of insurance. Okay, and then we also already discussed in terms of the, kita akan go through pricing of insurance. Okay, so pricing of insurance, you can refer also from any textbook. From the textbook, if you have a version 3, from page 178, you already explained well in terms of the meaning here for each type of pricing of insurance. Because for the pricing of insurance, this is how we calculate for the premium for the customers is based on the risk premium, expenses loading, contingency loading, and profit loading. So saya dah explain dah apa definition for each components of premium, okay, that will be charged to the customers. Okay, so this is how the insurance company will set the pricing of premium to their customers. Okay, and then we also already go through for the concept of reinsurance. Okay, so for the reinsurance, this is how the insurance company will insuring again. Okay, the insurance company in order to get the protection from the reinsurance company. Okay, so I hope you already done some research in terms of the name of reinsurance company that available in Malaysia. Okay, for example, kita ada NRRB. Okay, you all boleh search lah banyak types of reinsurance company that available in Malaysia. So for the reinsurance, this is how actually the insurer or the insurance company will reinsurance again their self or their company in order to get the protection, in order to share the amount of losses with the reinsurance company. Okay, so this is about the reinsurance. Okay, and then we already also discussed for the function of reinsurance. So for the function of insurance, this is as a protection for the primary insurer or captive insurer. And then we also want to increase the capacity. We all want to spread the risk. We want to create the financial stability. We want to share in terms of the technical and services expertise. And also in terms of the financial management tools, in terms of the financial stability, profitability. So that's why they will create in terms of relationship for the reinsurance with the any reinsurance company in Malaysia. Okay, and then we also already discussed for the types of reinsurance or method of reinsurance. Okay, so especially in terms of the we have for the treaty and also facultative reinsurance. Okay, so for the for any treaty reinsurance, okay, so this is how actually the reinsurance company will share with the primary insurer. So kita ada treaty, kita ada facultative. Okay, so kalau untuk Okay, treaty reinsurance. Okay, treaty maksudnya there is no choices for the reinsurance company to accept or maybe to reject the amount of fees that they will share with the primary insurer. Okay, so there is no choices untuk treaty. Tapi untuk fakultatif, reinsurance company, they have an option, which is the reinsurance company, they have an option whether to accept or reject the amount of losses. So let's say lah, untuk primary insurer, dia kata dia nak share dengan reinsurance company for 1 million ringgit. Tapi based on fakultatif, dia ada option. Reinsurance company, dia ada option nak accept or reject the amount of losses. Itu untuk fakultatif. Tapi untuk treaty there is obligation maksudnya wajib untuk reinsurance company share the amount of losses with the primary insurer. Okay, itu adalah dua perbezaan untuk fakultatif and treaty reinsurance. Okay, so these are the method here for the reinsurance company. So for the calculation is usually we will calculate we will discuss more towards the quota share treaty reinsurance. Okay, so quota share meaning here there are the percentage between the reinsurance company and also the primary insurer. Okay, so for the quota share, okay, let's say they have a percentage, the amount that they want to share is sekejap ya, saya nak tulis sikit. Okay, so for the quota share, let's say for the reinsurance company, they want to share the amount of losses, okay, with the primary insurer, okay, 80% and 20%. Itu adalah masuk untuk quota share. Sebab tu kita ada word here for the quota share. Okay, so 80% and 20%. So they said that quota share is 80%. So kalau dia cakap dalam soalan quota share adalah 80%, so maksudnya reinsurance company akan bayar 80% for the amount of losses. So lagi 20% siapa yang akan bayar adalah primary insurer. Primary insurer. Okay, so kalau lah, let's say kalau reinsurance company, kita ada reinsurance company B and then kita ada primary insurer A. So insurance company B akan bayar 80% but based on quota share, 20% adalah primary insurer. So that's why for the percentage for the primary insurer, we can call it as retention. Kalau you all still remember, meaning of retention adalah company will pay for the amount of losses. Okay, they will pay by their own self for the amount of losses. So that's why for 20%, primary insurer akan bear the amount of losses. Okay, yang akan bayar amount of losses. So another 80% adalah based on quota share. So reinsurance company akan bayar another 80%. This is for the quota share treaty reinsurance. Okay, so that's why meaning for the quota share, arrangement under which the reinsurer agrees to take a certain and also constant proportion or percentage of all risks of a particular type of business. So they are based on the percentage given. So that's why in the quota share, they have what are the percentage here for the quota share that we will share with the reinsurance company. So 80% adalah for the reinsurer will pay for the amount of losses. Another 20% ataupun balance 20% will be paid by the primary insurer. Okay, so for the calculation part, we will focus more towards the quota share treaty reinsurance. Okay, alright. So in our previous class also, okay, we had discussed in terms of the law of contract. Okay, so make sure you know what is the definition here for the contract. Okay,
Madam,
so for the, yes.
boleh tak Madam record slide?
Okay, record adalah untuk saya dah minta tolong tadi kelas monitor untuk record kita punya screen recording. Okay, boleh? Alright, nanti kelas monitor akan share lah untuk file untuk recording. Okay, alright. So for our previous class also we had discussed in terms of the contract. Okay, contract. This is for this content here. This is very general for the contract. You have to know what are the meaning here for the contract. Okay, and then as we know for the contract, they must have a legally binding agreement. This is agreement for the insurance. This is agreement between the insurer and also the insured party, or between the insurance company and also the customers. So they must have a legally binding agreement. So that's why for the law of contract, they must have the elements in order for us to do for a valid contract. So what are the valid contract? For example, they must have a consent here between the customers and also insurance company, and then they must have a offer and acceptance. So for all the parties, if they want to make a valid contract, so they must follow for all the elements for the valid contract. Okay. So for the elements here or the essential for a contract, so we have here already discussed in terms of the 6 elements for a valid contract. So when they already fulfill for all these elements of a contract, so we can create a valid contract between both parties. Okay, so kalau tak ada one of the element here for a valid contract, so we can say that this is invalid contract created between the insurance company and also the customers. So for example, if there is no capacity for the individual to involve in a valid contract, so that's why the contract can be void, or it also can be voidable. Okay, so for all the parties, if they want to involve in the agreement or in a contract, so they must follow for all these elements here for a valid contract. Okay, so you all kena hafal lah for all these elements here for a valid contract. And then we also already discussed in terms of the types of defective contract. Defective meaning here for the contract also can be void, voidable, and unenforceable. Okay, so for the void contract, so let's say if there is some of legally do not exist for the valid contract, so the contract automatically will be void. Okay, and then in the other way for the defective contract, it can be voidable, it can be unenforceable. Okay, so this is the types here for the defective contract. Okay, and then we also already discussed in terms of the principle of insurance. Okay, principle of insurance, this is like a famous question that usually come out for your final exam. Okay, okay, the examiner usually will be asked in terms of what are the principles here for insurance. So you have to remember for all these types of the principle of insurance. So at least in terms of the definition here, and then for example, what are the features for each principle of insurance? Okay, and then for the subrogation. Okay, for the subrogation, you have to know we have 4 types, right? For the subrogation of insurance, so you have to know for each definition here for the types of subrogation. Okay. So for the principle of insurance, we discussed in terms of the assignment, utmost good faith. Okay, so kita boleh cakap untuk principle of insurance. So let's say if the insurance company and customer do not follow for all these principle of insurance, so it can create also a void contract between for their agreement for the contract of insurance. Okay, because for the principle of insurance, this is like we can say that the basic elements of a valid contract that must be followed by the insurance company and also for the customers. Okay, for example lah untuk principle of insurance, we have here for the utmost good faith. Utmost good faith meaning here for both party, which is insurance company and also the customer, they must disclose for all the facts or for all the material facts in terms of their own self, in terms of the asset. So if there is no disclosure between the insurance company and also the customer, so it can create at the end in terms of the valid contract between the insurance company and also the customer. So that's why the principle of insurance, this is the most important, we can say that the most important regulation that must be followed by the customer and also the insurance company. Okay, so please ensure that you know in terms of the definition, in terms of the features for each principle of insurance, right? So we have here for 6 principle of insurance. And then we have for the principle, let's say for the principle of indemnity. So you have to know what are the types or method of indemnity, okay, that can be paid by the insurance company to their customers. So method, for the indemnity. For example, we have for the cash payment, we can have for the repairing of the asset, cost repairing the asset. We can have for the indemnity in terms of replacement of the asset and also reinstatement of the asset. Okay, so these are the method here for the indemnity. So how they can measure, macam mana they calculate for the indemnity, it can be based on the sum insured, it can be based on the market value of the property of the asset, or it also can be based on the cost repairing the asset. So let's say kalau cost repairing the asset is 20,000. So the amount of indemnity, the amount of compensation that we paid by the insurance company is only based on the cost of repairing the asset. It cannot be more than the cost of repairing the asset that can be claimed by the customer. Okay, so these are what you should know in terms of the features for the indemnity. Alright. Okay, and then we have for the subrogation. Okay, so subrogation, we have here for 4 types of subrogation. So we already discussed subrogation out of tort. Okay, for example, here kalau subrogation out of tort, when there is negligence happen from the other party, or from when there is a severe wrong, when there is a breach of contract from the other party, so this is automatic, we can claim from the third party insurance. Okay, even though subrogation ni kita boleh cakap, even though the both party do not have the contract of insurance, even though kita tak ada pun dengan any contract of insurance dengan syarikat construction tu, sebagai contoh kan, but you are involved in any accident in the construction area because of the negligence of workers in the construction area. So based on the subrogation out of tort, so that's why you can claim from the other insurance, not from the other insurance company, from the other company because of the negligence of their workers. So when there is any severe wrong, when there is any negligence happen from the third party, so that's why you can claim the insurance or the cost of compensation, pampasan daripada third party. Itu adalah subrogation out of tort sebagai contoh. Okay. Okay, and then we have here for the subrogation of a contract, we have subrogation out of statute. This is based on the legislation, or this is based on the law. Okay, so for the subrogation of the statute based on the law, so that's why you can claim from the third parties. Okay, and then lastly we have subrogation out of salvage. And then next for the principle of insurance, we also already discussed for the concept of contribution. Okay, contribution, you have to remember for this principle, if this is only happen when the customer purchase, okay, more than one insurance policy. So kalau dia beli lebih daripada one insurance policy for the same asset, for the same subject matter, so that's why insurance company will follow based on the principle of contribution, that they will pay for the amount of losses for their customers is based on the principle of contribution. Okay, if the customer purchase the same subject matter, sebab tu you all kena tahu condition untuk contribution ni. Okay, kena hafal condition of contribution. If let's say if the customers purchase more than one insurance policy for the same subject matter, for the same perils, okay, for the common interest, so for each policy are liable for the losses, but they are based on the principle of contribution. Okay, so kalau dia purchase more than one insurance policy, dia ada 2 insurance policies for the common subject matter, so maksudnya 50% insurance A, 50% daripada insurance B. Okay, so these are based on the principle of contribution. Okay, and then lastly, we already discussed for the proximate cost. And then the last content here for the types, for the chapter 4, okay, you have to know about the scope of insurance or types of insurance. So I think for the type of insurance is easier for you to understand well, because this is related here for your group assignment. So for your group assignment, maybe you can choose for this scope of insurance or types of insurance. So let's say if certain group, they choose for the life insurance, so you can choose lah based on this type of life insurance. And then for the general insurance, okay, first thing for the life and general insurance, kalau untuk life insurance, meaning here this is for the long term insurance. Okay, so for the long term insurance, here you can purchase for this life insurance for your whole life, or maybe based on the agreed timing period. Okay, so let's say if you purchase for life insurance for 20 years, so life insurance or long-term insurance, meaning here this is insurance policy for the long term, not for the short term. Kalau short term, this is for a year. For a year, we can call it as a general insurance. Okay, okay, let's say for the motor insurance, so that's why we have to renew our motor insurance once a year. Okay, because for the general insurance, this is a short-term agreement insurance policy. Okay, but for the life insurance, medical insurance, this is for the long-term insurance policy. Okay, so this is the main differences here for the life and general insurance. Okay, so you all boleh read by your own self lah for this two of insurance types of insurance. So I already explained well in my slide in terms of the for each type of insurance. Okay, and also about the definition. Okay, and then okay, for life and also for the general insurance. Okay, right. And lastly, for chapter 4, okay, we want to discuss also in terms of the liability insurance. Okay, so for the liability insurance, this is actually related. Okay, liability, the meaning of liability is a debt, right? Okay, so once we are involved in liability insurance, so these are actually obligation for the third party to pay for any amount of composition, for any amount of losses. So you can look here, okay, for example, for the liability insurance, okay, we have for the public liability policy, okay, for example here for the public liability policy, this is a legal liabilities are frequently incurred in connection with business activities. For example, if there is a crane used at a roadside may collapse onto a public road and kill an innocent passerby. Okay, so let's say in a construction area, if there is any roadside, any crane, they are collapsed on the public road and then they will kill uh, an innocent passerby. So meaning here for any public, they can claim from the third party insurance policy based on the public liability policy. So we can say that for the public liability policy, this is also one of the example here in terms of the principle of subrogation. Okay, so because for the subrogation also we can claim from the third party, right? So in terms of the public liability policy, we can claim if there is an incur or any accident or incident happen that involved with the business activities. Okay, and then the other example here or the other type here for the liability insurance, we also have for the product liabilities. Okay, product liabilities. Let's say if you consume any medical product or any for example macam you for your skincare kan, and then when you use your skincare and then something happen towards your face, so that's why we can sue for the owner of the product based on the product liability, because the product that you use maybe it can have a side effect towards your face, okay, or towards your body. Okay, so these are based on the product liability. Okay, and then we have here for the other types of liability insurance. Okay, for example, here is a professional liability policy. Okay, for the professional liability policy, this is a professional person may be sued because his negligence during completing his task. Professional is, for example, here like a lawyer, doctor. If there is any negligence happen by the professional person, so that's why the customer or the person can sue the professional body or professional person, okay, because of their negligence to completing his task. Okay, for example, when there is a surgery happen, okay, and then there is a negligence by the doctor, sebagai contoh dia tertinggal kapas dalam perut kan. So that's why based on a professional liability policy, you can sue the professional person because of their negligence while completing the task. Okay, so this is the other types here for the liability insurance. Okay, so I think we already finished here for chapter 4. Okay, before we proceed with the calculation, any question that you want to ask? Okay, from chapter 4, before we proceed with the calculation. Discuss for the calculation part. Okay. Okay, I will share my slide here. Okay, so for the first question, which is okay, for question March 2016. Okay, boleh nampak tak gambar saya? Boleh nampak?
Boleh.
Boleh man.
Alright. So for firstly we discuss here for the reinsurance. Okay, for the calculation part for the reinsurance program. Okay, so based on the question 2B, okay, we will discuss for this question 2B for the reinsurance program. Okay, ZS1 Insurance Company arranges a reinsurance program based on 75% quota share with GV reinsurance program. Okay, so first of all, which one is the reinsurance company and also for the primary insurer? Okay, so saya rasa you all tahulah untuk reinsurance company adalah GV reinsurance company sebab dia dah clearly stated that for the GV reinsurance company, this is for the reinsurance company that we share the amount of losses with the primary insurer, with the cedant company. So primary insurer or cedant company, meaning here is the ZS1 Insurance Company. Okay, so ZS1 Insurance Company will be the primary insurer, and then GV Reinsurance Company will be for the reinsurance company that we share amount of losses with the primary insurer. Okay, so based on this question, that we share the amount of losses based on 75% quota share with the GV Reinsurance Company. So for the first question, you have to show details of reinsurance allocation between ZS1 Insurance Company and GV Reinsurance Company if the sum insured of the risk is 850,000. So sum insured maksudnya adalah maximum amount that can be claimed by the customer, right? For the sum insured. So let's say for the sum insured, dia nak calculate for the agreement or insurance policy for the sum insured of 855,000 based on the quota share 75%. Okay, how much that we will paid by the primary insurer, which is the ZS1 Insurance Company, and also for the reinsurance company. Okay, so if there is stated for 75% quota share, so meaning here, siapa or who actually the company that we pay for the 75% quota share of the sum insured of the risk is 855,000. Who we paid the amount of 75% quota share, okay, from the amount of risk 855,000. Is it that ZS1 Insurance Company or GV Reinsurance Company we pay for the 75% quota share? Anyone can answer my question?
GV Reinsurance Company.
GV Reinsurance Company or the primary insurer that we pay for 75% quota share?
GV.
GV.
Yes, GV Reinsurance Company we pay for the 75% of quota share. Okay. Okay, so 75% will be paid by the GV Reinsurance Company, kan? Okay, and then for the retention, we paid or the balance will be 25%, right? Okay, so another 25% will be paid by the ZS1 Insurance Company. Okay, so we have here for the first calculation. Okay, so for the first calculation for the risks, okay, you all boleh buat macam ni lah. For the risk 850,000. Okay, the amount of retention that we paid by the reinsurance company, or that we paid by the primary insurer is 25%. Okay, you all boleh statekan lah awal-awal berapa percentage dia, senang untuk you all faham. Okay, and then for the quota share, berapa percentage dia tadi kita dapat dalam soalan dah tulis dah. For the quota share, we paid based on the 75% quota share that we paid by the reinsurance company. So meaning here for the retention adalah untuk insurance company ZS1. Okay. Susah online ni macam saya cakap seorang-seorang tak apa. Okay, for the retention, which is the ZS1 company yang akan bayar, or the primary insurer or the siding company will pay for the amount of retention for the percentage of retention, and then for the quota share we will paid by the reinsurance company. Okay. Okay.
Okay, madam.
Okay, for the reinsurer. Okay, so for the risk, for the amount of sum insured 25% times with 850%, kita dapat berapa amount dia? So you all boleh calculate lah. 25% times 850,000 dapat berapa kelas?
212,500. 212,500 ringgit.
Okay, yes, good. 212,500. And then for the reinsurer, which is based on the quota share 75% that we paid by the reinsurance company. So 75% times with 850,000. Okay, so you all dapat berapa?
637.
Okay,
637,500.
okay. Okay, so 637,500. Okay, so you all dah faham. Okay, so you all dah faham dah based on the amount of quota share of 75% quota share we paid by the reinsurance company, and then 25% we paid by the ZS1 company or the primary insurer. Okay, and then next, if there is amount of claim is made and settled for 355,000. So bila ada accident, bila ada losses yang berlaku, okay, for the primary insurer, and then they calculate that the amount of claim that must settle, that must be paid by the reinsurance company or by the primary insurer is 355,000. And then based on the same reinsurance arrangement, compute the loss between ZS1 and G. So sama jugalah, percentage dia adalah sama, just you have to just you have to redo back of the amount of, not amount of risk, but amount of claim. Okay. Okay, so kita padam. So next we calculate for the amount of claim, bukan amount of risk. Okay. So, amount of claim is claim ataupun losses boleh jadilah. Amount of claim or loss is 355,000. Okay. So the amount that we paid by the S1 is or retention. Okay, so retention will be berapa percentage kita tadi?
25.
Yes, 25%. Okay, and then the amount of quota share we paid by the reinsurance company is 75%. So same goes, you have to times with the amount of claim or amount of loss. So kalau 25%, how much is the amount that must be paid by the ZS1 company?
86,250 ringgit.
Okay, ringgit Malaysia, 86,250. And then for the reinsurer, they have to pay for 75% based on the amount of claim or amount of losses is berapa? 75%?
258,750 ringgit.
Okay. So, okay, let's say if you want to ensure whether your answer is correct or wrong, so you just have to total up between the amount of retention and reinsurer, then you will get the sum amount for the claim is actually 345,000. So you just add up the amount of retention and also the amount for the reinsurer, awak akan dapat jawapan yang sama dengan claim. Untuk awak check balik lah whether your question is, the calculation is right or wrong. Okay, so you just add up 86,250 plus with 258,750. Okay, and then you will get the same answer with the amount of claim or the amount of loss. Right? Okay, so I hope you will understand well in terms of for the reinsurance. okay, based on the percentage of quota share that we paid by the primary insurer and also for the reinsurance company. Okay, so you can try for the other question that related with the quota share, reinsurance based on the quota share, right? Okay, so for now we continue with the first question. Okay, so for the first question, this is for the amount of total claim. There is a formula for the amount of total claim that must be paid by the insurance company if there is a amount of losses, okay, incur by the customers. So the amount of losses of the amount of sum insured that must be paid by the insurance company based on the formula given in how we can compute the amount of claim that must be paid by the insurance company. Okay, so we can look here for this type of question, question 2A. Okay, the customer or Mikael has two policies insuring his house. Okay, and then the sum insured for the house is the sum insured for the house, which is for the two policy, are 250,000 and 245,000 respectively. So if Mikael's house is damaged by fire and the loss is valued at 67,000, compute the claim paid by the two policy. So meaning here for this policy or for this calculation are related with one the principle of insurance, which is based on the principle of contribution, because they for this customer they have more than one insurance policy, right? So based on the principle of contribution, so the insurance company have to pay for the amount of claim by the two policy based on the calculation that we will compute for the amount claim paid, for the amount claim paid by the policies. Okay, so for the formula, in order for you to calculate for the amount of claim that must be paid by the insurance company is, the formula is a sum insured. Okay, yeah. Formula to calculate amount of total claim. Okay, so kalau kita nak calculate amount of total claim, formula dia adalah, okay, total claim. Okay, formula is sum insured divide by total sum insured. So kalau ni adalah, kenapa kita kena divide by total sum insured? Sebab customer ni beli more than one insurance policy. And then we have to put times with the market value of the asset. Okay, so I repeat again. This is for calculation that for the amount of total claim but that must be paid by the insurance company if the customer purchase more than one insurance policy. If the customer purchase more than one insurance policy, then you have to follow the formula given for the total claim but that must be paid by these two policies or by these two insurance company. Okay, so that's why the formula is sum insured. You have to divide with the total sum insured times with the market value of the asset. So we calculate first for this first policy. Okay, based on the sum insured of 250,000. Kita calculate dulu untuk insurer A lah. Kita boleh panggil for insurer A, but there are two policies, right? So for the insurer A, that must be paid if the sum insured is 250,000. Okay, so sum insured for insurer A is 250,000, right? Daripada insurer A. Divide by total sum insured. So total sum insured maksudnya 250,000, you have to add with 245,000. So 250,000 with 245,000, awak akan dapat 495,000 ke? Okay. And then you have to times with the market value of the asset that damaged by the fire. So market value of the asset, market value of the losses is value at 667,000. Sorry, ini bukan market value of the house. Ini market value ataupun value of the losses. So bila insurance company do the investigation and also evaluate the amount of losses, so the value of losses is 67,000. Okay, so 67,000 adalah for the value of the losses. Okay, is 67,000. So for insurer A, they have to pay 250,000 divided by total sum insured 495,000 times with the value of losses 67,000. So berapa amount yang you akan dapat? Total claim that must be paid by insurer A. Kita baca sebab dia ada two policy kan, the insurer A dengan insurer B. So you dapat berapa?
133,838.38.
Okay, 38 ataupun saya dapat 39. Okay, so this is for the insurer A. Okay, and then next you have to calculate for the sum insured, which is 245,000 pula. So tadi sum insured for 250,000. Next we have to calculate for the other sum insured, which is 245,000. So 245,000 sama je formula dia, cuma beza dia adalah sum insured. Okay, so you just have to redo for the insured. So meaning here for this is how we have to calculate for the insurer B pula lah. Okay, tadi insurer A. Okay, so insurer B. Okay, insurer B dia kena bayar for the sum insured 245,000. Okay, berapa amount you akan dapat? Sama je, total sum insured is same. Okay, same goes with the value total loss. Value of the total loss is also 67,000. So for the insurer A, they have to pay for based on the sum insured 245,000. Okay, so you will get the amount is for the total claim
RM33,161.61. 62 sen minimum.
Okay, alright. Okay, so this is for the insurer B. Okay, so you boleh faham kalau let's say if the question asks you for the two insurance policy, okay, if the customers purchase more than one insurance policy, then you have to calculate for the amount of total claim. So let's say if the customer purchase more than one insurance policy, and then you have to compute for the amount of total claim for each insurer, insurer A and also insurer B, then you have to use this formula. Okay, total claim is equal to sum insured divided by total sum insured times with the value of loss. Right? Okay. Next, we will discuss for the other calculation part. Okay, boleh buka untuk soalan Oktober 2016. Okay. Okay, calculation for October 2016, part C, question 2. Okay, October 2016, part C, question 2. Okay, we give you 1 minute to searching for your past question, October 2016, part C, question 2A, B and C. Okay, so this is a question that related with October 2016, part C, question 2. Right. Okay, semua dah ada dah? For past C question, dah ada?
Dah, madam.
Alright. Okay, now we will discuss for same goes how to calculate in terms of the amount of total claim that must be paid by the insurance company. Okay, so based on this question, okay, they have a certain type here. If the customers purchase for more than one insurance policy, and then if the customers only have one insurance policy, so we have to use for the other formula. Okay, so for the first question, which is question 2A, based on this question, okay, we read for this question, Nurul insured her bungalow under a standard fire insurance policy with the sum insured of 325,000. 8 months later, fire occurred and her bungalow is partially damaged. After investigation carried by loss adjuster, the loss suffered is estimated at 75,000. At the time of loss, the value of the house is 375,000. Calculate the claim amount payable accordingly. Okay, so based on this equation, okay, the customers purchase one policy or more than one insurance policy. Okay, Nurul insured her asset or her bungalow for one insurance policy or more than one insurance policy. Anyone? Dia ada berapa polisi, insurance policy? Satu ataupun dua?
Satu.
Yes, only one insurance policy purchased by Nurul to insure her bungalow. So based on this question, so we have kalau one insurance policy, so that's why we just have here for one sum insured, one amount for the sum insured, which is 325,000. Okay, so for the first question, okay, so the amount of sum insured is 225,000, and then when there is a fire occur, and then the amount of loss, okay, is 75,000, and then the market value of the house is 375,000. Okay, so based on this calculation, or based on this question, the customers purchase only one insurance policy. So the formula that you have to use if there is only one insurance policy to calculate for the total amount of total claim that must be paid by the insurance company. So you have to use the formula is sum insured divide with the market value times with the amount of loss. Okay. So there is no amount of total sum insured here because the customer purchased only one insurance policy. So that's why you have to use for this one, the sum insured divide with the market value. If the question stated for the market value, because certain question, they do not have any market value of the asset tau. So kalau question tu ada stated for the market value of the asset, then you have to use for this formula to calculate for the amount of total claim. Okay, sum insured divide with the market value of the asset time with the amount of losses. Okay, so sum insured kita dah dapat tadi based on this question 325,000, betul? Okay, and then divide with the market value of the asset. Semasa the house is damaged by the fire, the market value of the asset is 375,000, right? And then you have to times with the amount of losses. Okay, the loss suffered by the at the time of the losses is estimated at 75,000. Okay, so the amount of sum insured is 325,000, and then you have to divide with the market value of the house at the time of loss is 375,000, and then you have to times with the amount of total loss is 75,000. Okay, then you will get the amount of total claim that must be paid by the insurance company is berapa amount dia?
65,000.
65,000.
Yes, 65,000. Okay, so this is for the question that related with for the one insurance, if the customer purchased for one insurance policy and then they already stated the amount of market value of the asset. So kalau ada market value of the asset, then you have to use for this formula which is sum insured. This is for one insurance policy. Maksudnya saya tulis kat sini one policy sahaja. Tadi kita calculate for more than one insurance policy which is two policies. Okay, if the customer purchase for two policies, then we have for the other formula. So if the customers purchase for one policy, only for one policy, okay, and then they already stated for the market value of the asset, then you have to use for this formula. Okay, so sum insured divide by market value times with the amount of total loss. Okay, okay, next we go through for the second calculation or second question. Okay, so saya padam kat sini. Okay, so for the second question, okay, you can read by yourself first. Okay, a chemical processing factory has 2 boiler and pressure vessel plant insurance policy, each of which carries a contribution clause. The first insurance policy underwritten by Apple Pie Berhad has a sum insured of 12,000, and the second policy underwritten by Dale by Berhad has a sum insured of 10,000. So we already known that based on this question, that the first part they already stated that they have 2 boiler, okay, they have 2 plants, okay, so that's why they purchase for 2 policies. So that's why they have 2 policy, which is from Apple Pie Berhad and also Dell by Berhad. And then they also already stated for 2 amount of sum insured, which is the first one by Apple Pie Berhad is 12,000. Okay, Apple Pie Berhad, the sum insured is 12,000, and then for the insurer B lah, we can say that insurer A and insurer B has a sum insured of 10,000. Okay, and then both policy are subject to average condition, and then the chemical chemical warfare incurs a loss of 1860 when a boiler when the boiler explodes, and the said event is covered by both policy, which is they already purchased for 2 policies, right? So the amount of losses for 2 policy is 1860. So the value at risk at the time of loss is 12,000. And then you have to calculate for the liability of each insurer, because for this customer, this company, they purchase for 2 policies for the same subject matter. Okay, so for the 2 policy, tadi saya dah ajar dah, for the formula, for if the customer purchase more than 1 insurance policy, then we have to use the formula is sum insured, okay, divide with total, right? Total sum insured kalau more than 1 insurance policy. And then we have to times with the amount of losses. Okay, so ni adalah formula sama juga macam soalan yang tadi kita dah discuss. If the customer purchase more than 1 insurance policy, then we have to use for this formula. Okay, okay. So kita kena guna formula ni. So kita boleh calculate for insurer A adalah Apple, kan? And then second insurer kita ada, you all boleh buat table lah. Saya punya table ni memang tak cantik sebab saya buat on the screen. And then second insurer ada Dell by Berhad lah. Okay, so you all boleh buat lah table cantik sikit. Okay, so formula dia adalah sum insured divide by total sum insured times with the total loss. So for the first sum insured is 12,000, right? So 12,000 by the Apple Pie Berhad is 12,000 divide by total sum insured. So maksudnya total sum insured is 12,000. Add with the other sum insured, the amount of sum insured is 10,000. So we get for the total sum insured is 24,000. Then you have to times with the amount of loss is, berapa amount of loss dia?
12,000.
Not amount of loss, that one is a value of risks. Okay, so the amount of loss incur is only 1860.
860.
Yes, so kat sini dia ada confusing sikit. Dia nak confuse for you all dengan the value at risk at the time of loss and also the amount of loss. So we have to times with the amount of total loss is only 1860. Same goes with the Dell by Berhad. The sum insured for Dell by Berhad is 10,000. And then you have to you have to divide with the total sum insured is 24,000. Okay, then you have to times with the value of loss or the amount of total loss is 1860. Okay, so saya rasa you all boleh dapat lah jawapan masing-masing. So for the Apple Pie kita dapat berapa?
Madam,
Okay, ada soalan? Yes.
Total sum insured bukan 22,000
Madam.
Oh sorry, saya silap. Betul-betul 22,000. 12,000 add with 10,000 is 22,000, right? Okay, betul, 22,000. Saya saja je nak uji. Memang tersilap pun, tapi baguslah you all alert kan. Okay, so we have to divide with the total sum insured is 22,000. So kita dapat untuk Apple Pie Berhad berapa dia kena bayar?
RM1,014.54.
Okay, 1014.55. And then second one for Del by Berhad, kita dapat berapa? For amount of sum insured 10,000.
845.45.
Okay, betul. RM845.45. Okay. So this is amount of sum insured that amount of total claim by that must be paid by the Apple Pie Berhad and also Del by Berhad. Okay, for this is for the calculation that involve with more than one insurance policy. So that's why you have to use the formula is okay, total sum insured divided by total sum insured times with the amount of total loss. Okay. Okay, so for the last question. Okay, so for the last question, this is for the question, okay, that also involve with two insurance policy. So kalau dia nak baca, so for this question, the customer also purchase more than one insurance policy. So Hani has two fire policy insurance house. So the sum insured at 150,000 and 155,000 respectively because the customer purchase more than one insurance policy, right? So that's why they have two amount for the sum insured. Okay, and then if the house is damaged by fire and the loss is valued at 18,500, calculate the claim paid by the two policy. So as usual, you have to use the formula is sum insured divided by total sum insured times with the loss. Okay, so bolehlah buat table siap-siap kat situ. So bolehlah buat table, buatlah table cantik sikit. Buat table. Okay, banyak pula table saya, sorry. Okay. So we have two table because this have two insurance policy, right? So kita ada insurer A, kita ada insurer B. Okay, so you have to use the formula is sum insured divide with total sum insured times with the loss. So boleh buatlah table macam ni and then you can calculate by your own self for insurer A and also insurer B. I think you already know, right, how to calculate for the two if the customer purchase more than one insurance policy. So for this question, if there is a two policy, that's why we can divide here for calculation for insurer A and insurer B. Okay, so you all boleh buatlah selepas ni by your own self, right? Okay. Okay, so we already discussed, okay, for the calculation part that related with the quota share. Firstly, for the quota share. And then secondly, for the amount of total claim, the formula for the amount of total claim that must be paid by the insurance company. Okay, so I hope you already understand well in terms of the formula given and also how to calculate for the quota share for the reinsurance company. Because for this question, this type of question will become what for your quiz 2 and also in your final exam. Right? So before we end for our session today, any question that you want to ask regarding this chapter? And then for the last calculation, kita ada lagi last type of calculation which is how to calculate for insurance premium. So insurance premium nanti kita akan discuss in the next class which is next Monday. So I will give you, I will teach you how to calculate in terms of amount of insurance premium that will be setting by the insurance company for their customers. Alright, so that one is the last part for the calculation in chapter 4. Okay, so kalau you all still remember, kita dah discuss lah for the insurance premium. The calculation for the insurance premium is, for example, they have to pay for the profit rate, and then they have to pay in terms of the contingency. So this is how they will calculate in terms of the insurance premium for their customers. That one is the last part for the calculation in chapter 4. Okay, before we end for this session, any question that you want to ask? Tadi Anuliana ada?